In this video, we're going to show you how to make a humped or saddled cushion with the curve built into the boxing to reduce wrinkles.
So this is the cushion for our cockpit that is humped slightly. Now, because we built it for a hump, it's actually going to sit on there nicer than it would if it were made flat. Of course, the hump is so minimal. If it were made flat, you'd more than likely get a wrinkle in the middle. In fact, I'll show the old cushion to show you what that would look like, and that would be okay as well. But this is the right way to make a cushion with a hump or a saddle. So this is the old cushion, and you can see there's a wrinkle in there because it was made flat and it humps a little bit like that, so you get a little bit of a wrinkle effect. Whereas with this one, since it was made with a curve, when it does its hump like that, you won't get any wrinkles like that on the bottom side or on the boxing.
In this first chapter, we'll be patterning for our new foam.
So the first step in cushion making is trying to decide whether or not you want to reuse the foam. This is the foam that's in the rest of the cockpit cushions. This one's not in as bad a shape as the other ones, but it's kind of like a styrofoam, kind of like a packing material. We're going to replace it with dry fast foam. I am putting strapping tape on this seat hump, and I'm going to do it here, and then I'm going to put double-sided tape on top of that. So this is just a way to keep our pattern material down. You could just use painter's tape for this, but this makes it pretty easy. And the strapping tape will make it possible for us to peel up the double-sided tape without it sticking to the fiberglass. I'm going to peel off the transfer paper, revealing that glue. And then I've cut a piece of Durascrim pattern material that's a little bit oversized, but not too oversized. And we will stick it down without wrinkle, like that. And you notice that I have extra here going along the front because this is a hump. So now all I'm doing is marking the desired finish size right along the edge of our seat. And we'll do that to the sides here. You can see I have the cushion over here. I probably want that cushion to stop at the hinges because I just don't want the cushion to sit right on the hinges. So I'm going to put a dash line right there. And then obviously back here. And where do we want it to stop there? I'm going to go right to the edge right there. Good. This is sout and this is pout. So we know what's the right side and what's starboard and out. So I'll just put bow goes that way. So now we know for sure. We're going to take this piece off.
Next up, we'll be cutting the new foam.
This is our pattern, and I'm going to cut a 1/4 inch outside of these lines and fair them up as well when I'm cutting. So this is basically a straight edge. We want our foam to be a little bit bigger. Now we also have these snap positions, so what I'm going to do there is I'm going to cut up to there, and then I'm going to make a tear shape so that I can include those without cutting them out completely. And then we're going to cut a 1/4 inch all around the entire perimeter, making sure the snaps stay in place. I folded the pattern in half. It's not totally symmetrical, but I did mark the middle positions on the pattern. And now we can lay this on top of our foam, and we'll put a weight on top and we'll cut around. So I'm going to put a weight around it. Now I'm not going to just pin it in place and then cut because I have these snap locations. So what I'm going to do is actually trace around the foam with my marker, and then I'll cut it out once I get it traced all the way around. So here's our center marks. We're going to put that right on the foam here and also up here. And I am going to take this off, and this is the top side of our foam, and we'll just transfer these over for where the snaps were located. We're just going to do that. Ready for cutting. This is our blade foam saw. It works great. It has a base with the rollers, but you can also use an electric kitchen knife. It doesn't cut as well, but it does work. This is the aft side, and I am going to turn it over and label it bottom, just so that we know that that's the bottom. Pretty self-explanatory.
In this chapter, we'll be cutting the top and bottom plates.
So this is our seating vinyl. It's ever soft. I've marked it with an old piece before, and I'm going to take a scribe ball and mark all around the perimeter, and I want the top plate to basically be the same size as the foam and the shape of the foam. So we're just marking all the way around, and we'll cut it out. We can cut this Eversoft out with regular scissors. There's no reason to use a hot knife. I'm just putting my pattern material on top of our top plate and centering it. And I'm going to mark where the center is, here, and I also labeled it aft. This is Tex Plus. You can see right through it, and that's good for breathability for dry fast foam, and it's a really tough material. And I've just put my top plate on top of it, and I'll just mark around it with my scribe ball like this, and then we'll cut it out with scissors too. No reason to use a hot knife. It's a vinyl encapsulated polyester. So my top plate, I'm going to cut little notches, triangles basically, where the fold is, or the center is that we have. And then on my bottom plate, since I don't have a wedge or anything, that's why I use my top plate. If you had a wedge or anything, you'd have to use your foam as the template for the bottom plate, and the bottom plate would be the same size as the bottom of the foam. Then I can mark these in exactly the same position. We'll probably fold this in half and cut triangles here as well. This is also the inside. That's very important. This is the aft. So I mark in here.
Coming up, we'll be installing our zipper.
This is our bottom plate. It's marked inside. This is the side the zipper will go on. The zipper is going on the bottom plate because we're doing a continuous boxing. So I'm just going to put a straight edge here, and we're going to keep the zipper a few inches away from each one of the ends, so approximately there. I'm going to put double-sided tape very close to the raw edge of the zipper's flange on both sides. There's no right side or wrong side to this molded tooth zipper. Now the slider has to go on so that the puller is on the same side as the double-sided tape. Even though there's no right side or wrong side, there is now because there's double-sided tape on it. And we just separate the two halves, feed the two ends together, pull it into place. I like to put it in the middle, and I like to open up the front and put the slider tab forward. Okay, we're going to peel off the transfer paper. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to baste it beside that line so that it's nice and straight, and make sure that we're a few inches from the edge. So just like this. Okay, the slider makes this go crooked, but we'll fix that at the machine when we move the slider out of the way. So I've got some scrap material here of the Tex, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to put some double-sided tape so I could fold it in half and it will stay in position. So like this, and it's not perfectly square, it doesn't matter, this goes on the inside. And then I'm going to put double-sided tape here on one side, peel off the transfer paper. Now look at the slider. The slider will slide this way to close, so this side will have a pocket over here to slide into. This side, I'm just going to put this over here at the end. Okay, that'll make a nice stop and reinforce that area. But I'm also going to do that a little bit, do the same thing over here. But let's concentrate on the other side first and make that pocket. So I lift this up and I can see through to see where my zipper is here. I'm going to label the zipper like that. Let's turn this over. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a pocket that is about, what is this, about 2 inches. You can see it's 2 inches long, and fold it in half and then square it up, because this is on the underside. Not many people are going to see it, but I do want this to be nice and square. Same process. However, on the back side, I put double-sided tape down the long sides because we want the slider to slide into that so it won't impede. And what we're going to do is put it on so that the fold is going that direction, and make sure that we are going to put it a little bit over that edge, centered over here. So right like that. Now we have a great pocket for the slider to slide into when we're done. Let's put a stop here too. So I have a cording foot on this machine, and that's because we're going to sew some piping Usually you just do this with a standard foot, but this will still work. So I'm going to do some reversing here, heavy reversing. We're going to sew with this foot right alongside the zipper's teeth. As soon as I get close to the slider, which I'm at right now, I'll bury my needle before it comes up, and then I just simply want to move the slider by lifting the presser foot and pulling on the puller like that. Oops, I didn't go all the way. There we go, a little bit more. Lower the foot, make sure this is down nice and flat, which it looks like it's pretty good. Straighten it a little bit, okay. Okay, when we get to this end, we're going to basically do the same thing. I'm going to do this and do a little bit of heavy reversing here. I'm going to bury my needle to make sure that I go through the teeth. I can feel the teeth here, so I'm going to pivot on that buried needle and go across. And I'm actually going to go back one more time just to make sure it's nice and secure. Bury the needle on the other side right about where the presser foot would fall next to the teeth. Rotate around, do a little bit of heavy reversing. Sew down the other side, and we'll do the same thing at that end. Once we reach the slider, we'll move it again in the same manner. Now we're going to put a seam ripper in here. We're just going to rip it right between those stitches. That should be the center of the zipper. Trying carefully to stay in the center. This is the bottom side, so it's not crucial. I'm going to run into the slider here, but I got past it. And I'm going to go inside this pocket so that the slider can be buried inside of that. And I don't want to cut the pocket, so I'm going to tip the end into it and go deep as I can. So now we have access to the slider.
In this chapter, we're going to be bending our foam on the hump seat so we can create our boxing.
So we have our foam cut for this hump, and now we need to get the shape for the curved boxing. There are a couple ways to do this. You could pattern the edges, but what I like to do is I often just like to take strapping tape and curve the foam so I could take it back to the studio or your shop and work on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put tape across here. This is strapping tape right in the center, and I'm going to try to mimic the curve. So I'm going to come to the bottom side, and let's just cut this a little bit long, like that. And let's curve it by putting some tension on it. And we'll see if that matches the curve of this. And if not, we'll make adjustments. So no, I still need to come down some. So I'm going to pull a little bit on one of these straps to curve it some more. Now we need to do it on the bottom, I believe. All we're trying to do is mimic that shape so that we can make our boxing pieces. Well, let's see. If we do this, if the tape's out of the way, that's actually pretty good, just like that. So I know this tape's down here. You can't put it directly on top, but you can put it off to the side. And look at that, that hugs it nicely like that. So now we can take this inside and we can pattern for this arch here.
Creating our boxing patterns is next.
I've cut a strip of Durascrim pattern material to about 6 inches in width. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cushion and I'm going to put it on here so that I have about 1 inch off of the edge over here, and then I'm going to cut it about 1 inch or so over here. Okay, and then we'll do that for this side. For each one of the sides, we want to do this and cut small little strips. Now, if you had a thick piece of foam that you had to have a curve like this, you would cut V's out of it. V maybe here, and then you would glue those V's together, and that would make a deeper curve for thicker cushions. But for this thin one that's 2 inches, we don't need to worry about that. Okay, so let's see that one. So what I want to do now is take double-sided tape, and I'm using a 1/2 inch, but you can use a 1/4 inch too. You could even put 2 strips down it. And we want to go on the side of the foam, okay? It doesn't stick exceptionally well to the foam, but it sticks enough. So I'm going to go all the way around, kind of in the middle section, doesn't have to be in the middle. And then I'm going to make sure that I stick it down well with my fingers because it doesn't like to stick to the foam. I'm going to peel off the transfer paper on this side first. See how it doesn't like to stick? So you got to be careful about peeling it off. And once that's off, I'm going to take this and I'm going to leave that flat on the table, and I'm going to make sure that it fit in that area, and I'm going to roll it so it's nice and flat, and I have extra material here at the top. The top is the most important here. So if you look at the side profile, it is flat and nice. Now I'm going to peel back this, and I'm going to move this a little bit out of the way, and I'm going to stick this to my next piece in the same manner. Doesn't really matter where it is. The sides don't have to be even. You just want it to be nice and flat. Okay. Now we're going to come around here, peel this side off. I'm going to move this over so you can see that. It's flat on the table. I'm going to put it down. I usually just look at the top, and we're going to do the same thing here, making sure that these are out of the way. And we'll do that to the last side as well. Now your job's pretty easy. Now the tape sucks in the foam here, but we just ignore that. Now I take a marker and I go across the top, and we'll do this all the way around, following the curve. And when we get to the middle, where we have that mark here, I want to put a mark here. I kind of put a mark up on the side. I didn't mean to do that. And if you have to, hold your pattern material up to the foam as you mark if you need to. This is the aft edge, and I'm going to write out, and we are going to go to the corners now. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to mark the exact corner, and if it's rounded, just mark it someplace close to that. And then I'm going to mark the exact location for the side piece. So if this were the corner here, I want to be right on top of that line, and you'll see when they're pushed together, they're right on top of each other. Now I like to put, just so that I have a second reference, I like to put a line here in the middle as well, and then have that go over here so that I can use that as a matchup mark. Okay, so we're going to do that all around the perimeter. I'm also going to label this A and this A. And we'll do that B obviously around, and C and so forth. So we're going to do that to all corners. So this is what it should look like. I put a port, aft, out. I put out here. I put forward here, out, ports out. And we have all the corners marked, as you can see, so that lines would line up right on top of each other. And now we're going to take all these off, so they just peel off like this. And we'll get rid of our double side tape. So we have a continuous boxing now, and I'm going to put the seam at this back corner, or maybe in the side. I haven't decided for sure. But we're ready to baste the boxing together. So that corner is B over here, because if you take the aft thing, it goes like that. So I'm going to mark this seam someplace around here. Okay, so now we take these and we find A, and A goes like this, right over top of that, just like that. And then we take some packing tape, and we tape it together to make it continuous boxing like this. Okay, so now we have D, which is over here, and we're going to do the same thing with that. The B side we're going to leave raw. We're not going to put those together. So I'm going to tape this in the same order, and I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. We want this center line to come down into this part, so make sure that you do that if you haven't done so already. These are the two center lines. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut right on that line all the way across.
In this chapter, we're going to be cutting out our boxing.
So notice that our pattern is facing down because our vinyl is facing down. So the out is down. And we have it nice and flat. And I put it up here close to the edge because we have to have 2.5 inches this going that direction. So I wanted to have it a little bit long. This is my ending point. I'm going to mark my ending point, but I definitely want to go longer than that. So all I'm going to do is just put a line on this side of the vinyl fabric all the way to the other side, and when we get to the other end, we're going to have a couple inches extra there too. This is the forward edge, and this is our center line, so I'm going to go down here like that, and I'm going to mark forward. Now I'll just go ahead and mark P here and South here. I'm sorry, starboard. Don't have to worry about corners. I did mark over here, the end over here, and we need to do that here at the middle point of the aft. This is what it should look like. We're just going to cut right on that line that we made all the way to the other end. Our foam is 2 inches. We want our boxing height to be a 1/2 inch larger, so 2.5 inches. And I'm going to use the Sailrite canvas patterning ruler so that I make sure that I'm perpendicular to the cut edge. So we're following the shape exactly using this ruler. You can also use a tape measure and mark little marks 2.5 inches from the edge as well. Now all we're going to do is we're going to cut on that line, and we have our boxing that follows the shape of our humped cockpit cushion.
Next up, sewing piping onto the boxing.
This is our boxing, and this is the top edge where we put the middle mark. So this edge we want to put the piping on. So don't forget, if you put it on this edge, you're going to be wrong. So we're going to flip this over. This is the edge that the piping goes on. Now I'm just using a different brand piping that's prefabricated. This is an Eversoft, and this is a Morbrin, and they really look good together. So don't feel like you have to match the same brand or color or anything like that. You can do whatever you'd like there. It even looks good with Sattler fabric. So I've got my cording foot in, 1/4 inch, and all I'm going to do here is just basically, and I have blue thread in here to match or almost come close to the piping color. And we'll just start sewing here, and this is a tacking stitch, so I'm sewing it in about a 6mm stitch length. And we just want to follow the contour of the edge. So I'm matching up this edge with the edge of the vinyl. So there's curve in here. I'm following that curve. Now you can do this with the Sailrite Ultra Feed sewing machine. They have a standard cording foot that's built into it. With the LSZ, I recommend going to the larger cording foot. It just is easier, but this is the Sailrite Fabricator sewing machine.
In this chapter, we'll be sewing our boxing to the top plate.
Now, if you don't want piping, you can skip that step altogether, but we wanted piping in here to match the cockpit cushions. So this is the forward edge, so this is the aft edge, that means this is the forward edge. So we'll be basting it here to start with. We could baste it on the aft edge. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my top plate and put a 1/4 inch seam stick for canvas and upholstery. This is a acrylic glue, not a rubber-based glue, so it doesn't yellow in the sun, so make sure you get this from Sailrite all around the perimeter. I peel back the transfer paper to this corner here. This is the forward edge, that's the aft edge, so this is the forward here. So that notch would go right where that notch is here. And we want to baste it down so that the edges are flush and follow the shape of this cushion, and without stretching or pulling. When we get to the corner like this, it's almost a 90-degree turn, but not quite. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a little notch that's about a 1/2 inch away from that location, going no deeper than where we've stitched. So this will help us to make this turn. I do have to peel off this transfer paper. And then this will be forced to take that turn like this. And we're going to go around the entire perimeter. I'm going to stop right here, and I'm going to keep going this direction. If your aft marking is a little bit off, which ours is, I'm not worried about it. We still have the general shape in mind here. So we come to here, and I'm not going to join it at the corner because it's just too much bulk. I'm actually going to join it right about, let's see, right about, well, I need to make sure I have enough here to go around the corner. So let's base this side down all the way first. So I followed that around, and we are good here. What I want to do is I want to cut this so that it's not perpendicular to the edge. So I'm just going to cut off the excess. Don't worry about cutting your piping short like that. Now here you can see that we have excess, and that's okay. Don't worry about that. We're going to cut this so that we have at least 2 inches of extra overlapping the other piece here. Then I'm going to peel off this from the piping because we didn't do any reversing, so it peels off pretty easily, except for here for some reason. I guess I got to cut that one. I'm going to peel that up, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my piping now that we have everything basted in place so that it's flush. So just, you can almost do this anywhere. Have to get it off the double-sided tape. Right there. And I actually don't like to put it right on the seam, so I'm going to go a little bit off of it and cut here. Okay. So what that should give us is piping that is flush against each other, like that. We bought a sample in the same brand and color as our piping. You can get those at Sailrite. And I've just cut a little square or rectangular piece. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in to join the ends of the piping. This is a neat way to do it. I think it's long enough. And I'm going to put these together, and I'm going to put double-sided tape right on top of the flange of the piping. Break it. Peel this off. And then I'm going to make sure this is tightly, let's make sure those are next to each other. Like that. Make sure this is tightly round onto this, and this gives it a good look where the you can't see the junction. All right, now we're going to join these two together. So to do that, we're going to put these over top each other. I'm going to put a line on this one that's a 1/2 inch from this edge, and I'm going to put that line here as well. It looks like these are almost perfect 1/2 inches, and we'll sew here. So I have a 1/2 inch extra here, and I have a 1/2 inch extra here. We're going to sew with those two together, and the best way to do that is to fold this over and put a 1/4 inch seam stick on the edge so that we can baste this together, because we're going to sew these together before we sew it around the perimeter. Peel off the transfer paper. Outside surfaces would face each other, so they go together like this, which means you're going to have to fold your assembly up so you can do this. And hopefully those lines are right across from each other, and they are. So we're going to take this to the machine and we're going to sew here. The reason that I basted it together is we have to force all this into the machine, and I did change my thread out to the tan again, and I'm a 1/2 inch away from the needle. And I'm going to do some reversing here, and let's see, what did I say, everything? Yeah, I think I did. And we still have a cording foot in, but you can actually sew this with a cording foot. It doesn't work as well as a standard foot, but it does work. So there we go. So make sure everything is basted in the appropriate spot, and we're going to start sewing these together. I've got my cording foot on. I'm just going to start here. It doesn't really matter where you start. And I've got my tan thread in, and we're sewing 4 millimeters, and we're going to sew around the perimeter. The cording is in the tunnel of my cording foot. So I should be sewing right on top of those previous stitches that were done in the navy color. When I get here to the corner, this is where my piping is joined together, past the corner slightly. I'm going to fold this down. I'm going to try to keep my hands out of the way. Fold this down. Make sure edges are matched up. Try to get the wrinkles worked out, and then I'm going to sew around this corner slowly. Make sure that our thing is tight, our junction here. There we go, nice and tight. Just fold that down, the seam allowance. Edges are still matched up, perfect. I am way too far from the piping. No problem. See how far I am? what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it back in the machine where I lost my position, because nobody's going to see those, and make sure that it's in my tunnel, and continue to sew. So don't worry about things like that. You can fix it. There we go. So I'm coming up to this corner. What I'm going to do is with my fingers, I'm going to push this down so that I basically get the wrinkles on the inside of my boxing, and that helps me to round this corner, as you can see. There we are, rounded the corner beautifully. Okay, when I got to my beginning stitches, I just did a little bit of a reversing there. We didn't show that. So now here's my corner, and what I want to do is I want to fold directly above that, and I want to put a little notch in each one of the corners so that we can easily go around the corner on the bottom plate. Okay, so there, and we'll do that to all 4 corners directly across from the corner.
Creating snap tabs is next.
I took Fifertex Plus, which is the same material we use for the bottom plate. You would use that. And I cut it to 2.5 inches and struck a line in the middle here. And I just have a long length of it because we need this for the snaps to hold this humped or saddleback cushion in place. Then I'm going to put the 1/4 inch seam stick for canvas down both long edges. And I'll show you what we do next. I'm going to peel back the transfer paper, and then I'm going to fold to the middle line. This almost in a way creates kind of like a binding. So we're going to fold there, and we're going to fold there down the full length. We're going to even out the end, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark it every 5 inches here, and we're going to cut 5-inch strips. 1, 2, we need 4. This results in a piece that is about 1 1/4 inches wide, which is perfect for stamps. Now I'm going to take it and I'm going to fold it in half, and I'm going to sew around the outer perimeter. I don't have to worry about the top raw edge because it is going to be inside the cushion. So I will do a little bit of reversing here. I will stop about the same distance at the corner, lift my foot, pivot on that, sew down this side, pivot again, sew up this side. Do a little bit of reversing. I'll do that for all 4 of these. I put basting tape on the edge with the raw edge across all of these, and what we're going to do is we're going to peel off the transfer paper, revealing the glue, and then this is the outside surface of our bottom plate, and this is the bow, this is the aft edge, so it's marked aft. So all we have to do is just put this on top and understand that this is not exactly the same shape. It is the same shape as the foam, but that's the location of the fastener. So it doesn't go like this, it goes like that. So we want to try to think about where that fastener is going to go, and it should be right about there. When this is turned right side out, it'll flip out like that. So I'm going to put this one on right like that. So this corner is flush, this one's over the edge, that's perfect. Okay, so now we're going to do that to the next ones too. So just think about how it's going to lay when you turn it right side out. Take this one off. This one's going to go like that. So we should just be able to put that one right like this. That we make them fairly big so that we can hit the snaps that are on the boat and hopefully don't have to redo the snaps. Okay, we're going to do that to all 4. Now if you've got your old cushion, you could just take your bottom plate and lay it on top of here. And obviously this is a little bit bigger because our foam's slightly bigger, but you'd want these to basically be able to fold out like this and hit the snap location on the boat. So I think we have them positioned about right, just like that.
Basting and sewing the top plate to the bottom plate is next.
Next, I'm going to put double-sided tape very close to the raw edge of the bottom plate on the outside surface. Notice the zipper is facing down. This is what the underside looks like. And we're going to go all the way around the perimeter. Now we're going to put this on in the same manner that we did when we joined the boxing to the plate. We're going to peel off the transfer paper of one side. This is the aft side. So the aft sides get matched up. Outside surfaces would face each other like this. And let's see, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start with the forward side because I know the forward side is basically matched up. So I'm going to come around here. there's our forward notch. Forward side is actually pretty good. So it should be directly across from this. I could put the notch in the boxing, but I don't think I need to. And the nice thing about double-sided tape is that if it's off any, I can make adjustments. So I'm going to baste it around the perimeter, and if I find one side is off more than the other, I can make adjustments before I sew it. So we're going to go around in this manner. I put the magnetic guide at a 1/2 inch away from the needle. I still have my cording foot in. I think I'll just leave it in for now. And we're going to sew around the perimeter. Everything turned out perfect. This is the forward edge, so I think I'm going to start on the side rather than the forward edge so that my seam runs into something on the side that's not as visible. So we put that in there like that, and I'm not going to do any reversing at the beginning. I'll do reversing when I run into those stitches again. And we want to sew a 1/2 inch from this edge all the way around. Watch what I do when I get to the corners that are already slit. So we're almost to a corner. I'm going to flatten this out, and I'm going to sew up to my notch right there, and the needle's coming up slightly, and I'm going to lift my foot, pivot on the needle, I'm going to lift this foot and push this little bump back with my finger, so I'm not sewing a bump, and everything is still matched up. This is where my snap is, and we sew down this side. So we're going to do this all around the perimeter. Don't worry about sewing over top of these. I'm going to move the magnetic guide just so I don't run into that. Yeah. And then I'm going to put the magnetic guide on once I get to that. I could have trimmed it as well. Okay, that's all there is to it. She looks really good. Now we're going to turn it right side out. So we're going to open up the zipper and split apart the zipper over here. Okay, and we have to push all the corners out nicely.
In this chapter, we'll be inserting our foam into our finished cushion cover.
Okay, now we're going to cut this off and remove this from our foam. And we're going to make sure the bottom side is up. This is our silk film. I don't want silk film with dry fast foam, but we can use it to compress the foam, and we can tear out the back side, which will make our dry fast foam work again. So we're going to fold this over, leaving an opening for the hose of our shop vac. Shop vacs always work better than small vacuums. Put it on top of our foam, and then fold this up. And we want to have our cushion ready. There's the forward edge. Where's the forward edge on this? That's the aft edge, so we need to flip this around, or we could have flipped our cushion around. And watch what happens when I turn on the vacuum. Okay, that silk film also makes it easier for me to reposition the foam inside of the cover, because the foam sticks really well to the cover. And I can still open up the back side, but I don't like to push my silk film past the corners, because then I can work on my corners. So we do want to open this up, and you can remove some of this if you have excess, just to make sure the dry fast foam works well. And we're going to push all of the corners into where they need to be. This could take anywhere from 2 minutes to 5 minutes, depending on the size of your cushion, because you want to position everything nicely in here. So what I mean is you want to roll this around like this, and I'll show you what it looks like when we're done, and make sure the corners are pushed in well. We can also roll the seam allowance to one side or the other. Sometimes I just roll to the boxing side just by putting my finger in there, and that makes things look nice too. Sometimes it's necessary to zip it up and still make adjustments. You don't want to get that silk film in the slider. We're going to zip it up, that way we know where we're at. And look how this works. That goes right into the pocket here, which helps to protect it. So let's keep working on rolling it around, and I'll show you what it looks like.
In this chapter, we'll be installing the snaps and then our finished cushion.
So I'm going to take some chalk. This is one way you can mark locations for snaps that are already in, and put it over the top of the stud. And then I'm going to push my cushion down so that it's flat, and then push up against the tab, and then hopefully on the back side, yeah, we got a chalk mark right there. The socket goes above and the button goes below, and the rubber O-ring holds it in place, and this punches a hole and sets it all at the same time. Now I want the socket to be on the side with the chalk here, so I need to make sure that I position it like this, and there's my spot, and all you have to do is depress the lever and your snap is installed beautifully. So once you get one down, make sure you fasten it and then hold down on the other side, and we'll follow that same procedure with each one of these locations. Now we used hard action snaps, which I think is a good idea for this kind of application. And you go all the way to the back here. And there we go.
Our cushion is now complete and installed, and it looks fantastic. Check out the list of materials and tools in the description below this video. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. I'm Seth Grant from all of us here at Sailrite. Thanks for watching.